It's a chilly November morning here in Las Vegas, and I'm going to run down to the local Celebrity Cars and Coffee here, the car show. Saturday morning, I'm going to take my old 1967 Silver Shadow Rolls-Royce. I realize I haven't really talked much about this car, so today I'll show it to you. This thing has been in storage for a while. I had lost the keys to it for a long time, and so I couldn't move it for a long time, and so we had to rip the dash apart and take the mechanism in to be rekeyed. And I talked about this back when I bought it. I bought it at South Fork Ranch in Dallas, Texas, and it's kind of a long story. I'll try to go through it as quick as I can. You could see this original plate from 1968, right? Miss B&H. Well, actually, it belonged to a lady named Nancy B. Hammond. I don't know why they got the letters backwards there, but anyway, she was one of the wealthiest women in Dallas. You'll find her name on a lot of buildings there in Dallas, like hospitals and art centers and things. She was a philanthropist. She gave away a lot of money, and this was her car. She drove this thing to death. I think it's got like 88,000 miles on it, or 188, I don't know. Big, thick stack of records on this car. She put a lot of miles on this car, and she's talked about it in her books. And she was friends with Larry Hagman, the actor from the TV show Dallas. And he used to drive this thing around Dallas. A lot of pictures of him driving this car. And it was auctioned off at South Fork Ranch. I think when she died, I was told she left it to her hairdresser, I think. And then that person gave it to the ranch. I'm not sure how the ranch ended up with it. All I know is that they auctioned it off. I ended up winning this car for only $10,000. And drove it home. Nobody bid on it for some reason. It's all completely original. Other than cleaning it up, I really haven't done anything to it. You can see where there's some of the leather fading where I need to re-dye it and whatnot. You got a little cracking here. I need to pull all this wood and refinish it, but I think it's worth doing. I mean, look, it's got the original Motorola radio. I'll show you that here in a minute. The back, it's kind of a mess. I need to clean it up. It's interesting to me, these cars, they were hand built. You'll notice, like, there's no seam where the fenders, or as they call it, the wings. Like, it's all one piece, the car, right? Like, you can't change this fender. It's one piece, the way the car is. It's interesting. Solid cars. Now they use we're going to get into this. They use a hydraulic system to operate the suspension, the brakes, everything. And as you can see, it's dropped down because it's been sitting. And the trunk is a mess. The boot, it's a mess. A bunch of junk in here. I need to clean it up. But we could talk about some of these signs and things. You can go back and watch the original video from back when I bought this thing and see some of the description about how I got the car. Now, going back to this hydraulic system, this was a system they borrowed off of Citroen, however you want to say it. And it leaks like a sieve. I mean, so I've already pre-popped the bonnet. It has this reservoir here that you fill full of this particular brake fluid. Now, it's not regular brake fluid. It's a special Rolls-Royce brake fluid that's really expensive. You have these twin carburetors, big giant air conditioning compressor, which of course doesn't work. But I gotta tell you, this car, as old as it is, fires right up and idles perfectly and runs perfectly. The only problems that it has is this system here. All right, this stuff, RR363. It says .3 brake fluid, but it's specially blended for these cars for use in Rolls-Royce and Bentley cars, specifying the RR363.3 brake fluid system. What happens with these cars is people buy them and they don't know that you have to use this special blend of brake fluid, and then they make the mistake of putting regular .3 brake fluid in there, which, it probably says on there, I don't know if it says, it doesn't say, but if you put regular brake fluid in here, it destroys all the seals. It just destroys the car because brake fluid is extremely caustic. So basically this is obviously a non-caustic style of brake fluid. This stuff's like 20 something dollars a quart. And this thing leaks like crazy. So it costs me 20, 30 bucks worth of fluids every time I want to take this thing out. I'm not even joking. It just leaks. So in order to fix this, you have to take apart the entire system. You have to change every single seal throughout the system because every seal on it is just leaking, which means the pump is working overtime. So when we start this thing, you're going to hear this tapping sound. It's not the engine, it's the hydraulic system trying to pump up the pressure to get this thing going. Because once it does reach pressure and the car reaches level, which takes about 15 minutes really, the engine's nice and quiet. Now I do have a bit of an exhaust leak on this car because it's, you know, listen, it's old. Let's fire this thing up. Now, I have not started this thing today. I mean, you just have to trust me on this. It's my custom key that I had made. I got this key ring on eBay. It was 50 bucks. But isn't it worth it? Look at that key. I put a little soft pad on the back because it rubs up against the dash. Okay. Let's jump inside. Oh my gosh, it's cold in here. Sheesh. There's a look at the gauge. 88,910 miles, it says. That's an oil. I don't know if that's pressure or temp. Amps 0. Coolant. Fuel. Over here you have a clock that of course doesn't work. This is the panel dimmer, which is pointless because it's already dim. Wiper, upper and lower temp, and it has multiple stages where you can pull it out. And I'm not sure exactly how it all works. All right, let's see what happens. Cold start. Let's see what happens. Wow, it normally just starts right up, but it is really cold. Well, that's the hardest it's ever been to start this thing. But then again, I've never started it at like 6 in the morning when it's 35 degrees. But you can hear it's running. Look at there. So I don't know if you can hear that tapping, that knocking noise. That is this hydraulic compressor running. So I'm going to take some of this with me, just in case. Always carry plenty of fluids with you in this car. Let's see if we can see it rising. You can, just slightly. It's rising ever so slightly. See it? Just a little. Rise from the dead daddy. Little distraction while it's idling. This boat over here. I had done a video about this boat and I didn't post the video. I'll do a video about it later. You guys are gonna see it and ask about it. It's a long story, but it's a little 2-person red and black little speedboat that I went and picked up. We probably won't be addressing this thing until, you know, it's warm out. Once it gets warm, and we'll take it out to the lake. But long and short of it is, yeah, I got a red and black little speedboat. That's the end of the story. Okay, we'll talk about it later. Anyway, oh, there we go. So it's raised up. You're supposed to warm it up to temp before you get going, and I'll try to do that as much as possible. The heater in this thing works great, though. I need to wipe it down, so I'm gonna stop recording for a minute, and I'm gonna wipe it down a little bit. There it is. It's idling perfectly now. It's actually running at about a high idle. If I go in there and tap the gas, it's going to drop down. But I've cleaned up a little bit. I'll show you one of my detailing secrets. This stuff here from Chemical Guys, leather scent. Now this car does not need to smell more like leather. However, I use this in all my cars, this spray. It's a leather scented spray. And it just, you know, anybody who's smelled one of these cars will tell you it has a unique smell. It's like it's like a cigar box full of potpourri. I mean, it's like you smell this wood. I don't know what that is. Some kind of a, oh, that's the CD changer. Okay. It's got these little footrests here. There. Little picnic tables, of course. And of course, an ashtray. Anyway, I should have vacuumed this out. The bottle's frozen. Great. But I love when people open the door to this thing and they comment on the smell. Like, oh my gosh, it smells so amazing. It's like walking into a leather store. So I use this in my Rolls-Royce Phantom. All my cars have leather. It's so much better than smelling, you know, the black ice or cherry or whatever smell. This is my collection of cleaners in this whole building here. Anyway, I think it's fantastic. People will comment on it. I had done I was talking about in another video this property here in Las Vegas, if this is your first time watching. I did some research on my property. It predates all the other properties out here. At one time, this was just desert in the middle of nowhere. And in the middle of nowhere, these people decided that that little building there would be the well house. They figured out that in between the two ravines here, this area had water. Because that's what Vegas is. It's a big spring in the middle of a bowl. So in 1965, they put this well in and they put this little building here. And the following year, in 66, they built this building, which was their house, and they lived in it. And then the following year, they started building the big house. And it wasn't until like 1990 that these apartments popped up. But at the time they built the property, it was the only thing here in the middle of nowhere. Pretty interesting. And now there's, you know, all this stuff showed up around the 80s. But imagine at one time, about the same time that this car was brand new, 1967, you would have come here, and this little house and this little building would be in the middle of the dirt nowhere in the middle of Vegas, or in the middle of the desert. This was considered pretty far from the strip at the time. But now all this other stuff is built up around it. And that's why I bought this place. I love old classic stuff. Like this car. Let's take it for a ride. Okay, a tap of the gas should take it out of warm-up mode. There we go. Now it's dropped, the idle's dropped way down. And check this out, okay? So this little door here, oof, it blasted me in the face. This is a direct access to the heater. You can see in there. The heater in this thing is great. Actually, the temperature is still pretty low. So the heat isn't up all the way. But there are mechanical servos in here, and when you turn these dials, you'll hear them creaking and moving around. This poor wood is cracked and stuff here. I want to pull these panels out, sand them down, and refinish them. It's on the agenda. But in the meantime, let's get going and get rolling down the road. It's not perfect, but then none of us are. But it'll go. Ah, and there's nothing like looking at that thing on the bonnet, huh? Look at that thing. The thin steering wheel is fantastic. Not a crack in it either. It's in just perfect condition. drives like you're on a cloud. It really does. Now, if the hydraulic and suspension system were up to par, I'm sure it'd be much better. These tires are probably a little out of round. They're probably at least 20 or 30 years old. I don't know if they have dates on them. I mean, this car sat at the South Fork Ranch Museum for a long time, and it sat at my place for a couple of years. The fact that you can fire this thing up and just drive it is crazy. But every single orifice on this thing is leaking, I think. I think the gas tank doesn't leak, but it definitely leaks transmission fluid, oil, and the hydraulic brake fluid. So we need to go through and fix all of those issues, get the air conditioning going, and I think this will be a great daily driver, and I'm ready to do it. I love this car so much. It cruises comfortably at about 60 miles an hour, which I just used the phone GPS to check the speed, and it's about a mile or two hair faster on the gauge. So if it says 60, I'm going like 59, whatever. Pretty close. It seems to be comfortable at that speed. You start going a little faster than that, you get vibration, and and I'm sure with new tires and balance and a few things, this thing would fly no problem, because it seems fairly effortless. I mean, it's pretty powerful, adequate or sufficient, I think is the word. V8. We do have some wind noise coming in. I'm sure seals and windlass and things like that are pretty worn. All of those things need to be addressed. But I don't go on any long trips with this thing, so it's fine. Now, I will say the suspension on this thing is great, because anybody who lives in Vegas who's driven up this 215 going west towards the Strip, they know how bumpy this road is. It's a really rough concrete road, and in a firm sports car, you'd be, shaken to death. When I drove, like Hoovie's Ferrari up this road, it about knocked me out of the seat. Whereas in this thing, nothing. I don't feel anything. Like maybe a slight vibration. But this is one of those bumpy, lumpy roads where you're going down the road like that. And this thing, nothing. It's they really built this thing to ride on those French cobblestone roads, and this is where that hydraulic system shines, because I know that when it's working properly, wow, what a ride. Okay, so every Saturday morning on the corner of this Richmar and Eastern at the Twin Peaks is the celebrity car show here in this parking lot, and you'll see every kind of car. Pardon me. I've seen everything from Bugatti Veyrons to old Rolls-Royces. Anything you'll see. Ooh, look at that Datsun. Or is that a Toyota? It's a Toyota. Nice. There we go. We're parked. Playing some rock and roll music here. And we'll walk around, we'll take a look at some of the other cool cars here. Not that. Why is that here? Bleh. All the Corvettes are over here. All right, this is all going to be baseball caps and New Balance shoes. See? That's the Corvette owner right there. Baseball cap, New Balance shoes. They come free with every car. As soon as you buy a Corvette, you get a coupon for your New Balance shoes and your baseball cap and your official Corvette logo jacket. Everybody needs to know that you own a Corvette. You know when you take a bunch of vitamins and then you pee? That's the color of this car. Oh man, I always wanted a Nomad. Look at this thing, red with a red interior. It's so me. Oh, beautiful. It's a 56, I'm guessing. It's done so well though. Obviously the 57 is the one everybody wants, but this one is nice. Oof. Resto modded, Corvette, LS. This thing is sick. Love it. There's a perfect plate for this thing, Hater. because I definitely hate it. Hate everything about it. Crush it, please, crush it. There's nothing more annoying than these people with their EVs who come to the car show, right? Like they bring their Teslas, and so the ma'am over here has her Mustang Mach-E, and she's standing there raving about how it's got a warranty and there's no maintenance. And listen, I drove a 1967 Rolls-Royce over here. Things started up and drove just fine. Now you're gonna tell me that in 60 years you'll be able to start and drive that electric Mustang, that you'll be able to get a battery for it, that you'll be able to get parts for it? Not a single one of these EVs are going to be on the road in 20 years. None of them.
I ended up buying.
Let's go back and watch this video 20 years from now. I'm sure YouTube will still be around. And let me know if any of these EVs still work. They're not going to work, folks. But that Rolls-Royce, I guarantee you in 20 years will still start up and run. You know it. It's bad enough to have to put up with all the Mustangs and the Challengers and the Chargers. But people bringing the Teslas and the EVs, nobody cares. It's the antithesis of what a car show is about. It's just the opposite. Keep your ass at home plugged in, watching Will and Grace. We're not interested, all right?
Some days you go in and
Let me show you what we're interested in. Look at this cool little something. Wow. That's well done. Little Corolla. What a nice little car. 1600 Deluxe. Still on the road. Yeah, your EV's gonna be on the road 40 years from now. Sure. This little Corolla is. I bet this thing screams too. This thing is a crazy color. That's obviously a wrap, I would imagine, to get that metallic. This is more of a Miami looking car. But what a crazy metallic wrap on this thing. I kind of miss Hoovy. I miss my 458 Spider. Can I have it back? I want to take it to Taco Bueno. Or where did it go? Del Taco. Yeah, these are nice. Oh, it is from Florida. I was going to say, this is a Miami car. Or he's just got Florida tags. This is not a color you would see in Vegas. This is a very Florida car. But it's cool. It's very cool. Tell you a funny story about the 57 Chevy. I bought a 57 Chevy wagon, 10 years ago. And I'd never had one. And I went to the gas station. And I'm walking around the thing trying to figure out how to put the gas in. I'm looking for the gas cap everywhere. Now, those of you who know this car, you know exactly what I'm going to say. So I'm walking around trying to figure out how to put the gas in the thing, and I see this guy smiling at me, old hobo sitting against the wall. He says, "Hey, you trying to find the gas cap on that car?" "Yeah." And he said, "Go in that store in there and buy me a 40-ounce beer, and I'll tell you how to open the gas cap." I was like, "Are you shitting me?" So I go in there, I buy him a beer, and he says, "All right, here it is, I'll show you." All right, I'm not gonna touch this fella's car, but the gas cap is right there. This door opens, it's a door that flips open, and the gas filter is behind there. And you know, they make it even on both sides, so you would never know that that's where you put the fuel in, but it goes in there, very well hidden. Right above an electrical outlet, perfect. But anyway, anybody who's ever had one of these cars has had that experience probably. I just talked to the owner of that car. Dude is 80s. He bought it new. I think that's the funny thing that you try to explain to somebody who's into these newer EV cars and stuff. That dude bought that car in 1957. He's restored it 3 times. It now has an LS3 in it. You know, it's pretty crazy. I'm just willing to bet that you're not going to see in the year 2050 a Tesla at a car show unless they tow it there. Hell, most of them now have to be towed. I don't actually have a problem with the EVs. I think they're great. I would like to have an EV for just putting around town. They have their purpose. But as long as you understand that they're part of a throwaway society, they're big lighters of cars, you know, they're just made for putting around and then you throw them out. And that's really the argument to the people that are trying to go green, is they are not sustainable. They don't, you know, they're using up a whole lot more resources. Whereas you have these cars that are made out of steel and they use gasoline. They last like forever if you want them to. Literally forever. I mean, there are cars here that are 100 years old and drove here. And that's really the point. And I think that it's hard to sell that concept. I think the more sustainable thing would be to go back to this technology rather than trying to go into the plastics and the batteries. Because the plastics and the batteries are just going to end up in landfills. Nobody is putting this thing in a landfill, this Rolls-Royce, you know what I mean? It's you know what I mean? Look at this little Porsche. Air-cooled little car. Wow. I bet it runs perfect. Beautiful. This box Caprice. Look at this thing. There's TJ Hooker. This thing is awesome. For sale. $8,000. Wow. For a box Caprice. It's got new white walls on it. Man. It's in good shape though. It's worth $8 grand, but if anybody wants it, there's the cat's number. Buy it. New gas tank, fuel pump, battery. 54,000. Man, if this thing was like $3, I'd buy it right now. $8, I don't know. Wow, look at this dually square body over here. These things are bringing the money too. Oof. I don't know about the wagon wheels on that. They're kind of goofy. So you look at stuff like this. This thing is 100 years old, just about, and it like runs. It's so cool. I didn't used to appreciate this stuff when I was younger, but I do now. So if you want to join us here at the weekly car show, watch me make fun of cars. It's every Saturday, 7 to 10. And it's on Eastern at the Twin Peaks. You can find us here. There we go. It's running. It's quiet. It was a hit. Been talking to a lot of people about the car. They love it. And I'm gonna go have a nice English breakfast. Let's go. See these dumbasses? This is what scares the hell out of me. Driving this car around. These two morons wrecked into each other. And I'm so scared that that's gonna happen to this beautiful car because it's just not repairable or replaceable. Here at the Crown and Anchor, nice British pub on Tropicana, one of my favorite places to go. There's not too many places where you can get a full English breakfast, but the Crown and Anchor is one of them. It's one of my favorite places. Let's go get a nice hot tea and milk. Beans on toast. Beans on toast. If you know, you know. It's warming up. Beautiful Las Vegas sunshine on your face. Here it is, a late November afternoon. Beautiful day. When the sun comes up, even in the wintertime, it's always nice. Starts right up. So anyway, Gonna head back home, put this thing back in the stable. And we got another event. Maybe I'll make another video tonight. So catch you guys later. Hope you enjoyed this nice Saturday with me and my 1967 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. Catch you on another video. Thanks. Bye. I can't get this thing to work. Huh. Doesn't do anything. Nothing. All right. I'll just whistle the tune.